Speech-language therapy or speech therapy is a type of treatment for children and adults with communication and/or swallowing disorders. Communication and/or swallowing disorders can be associated with conditions such as cleft lip and palate, intellectual impairment, stroke, head injury, and autism spectrum disorder. Speech therapists are educated at university level to assess and treat people who have a communication disorder and train others such as nurses, teachers, and parents to provide support in hospital, school, and home settings. In developed countries, communication and swallowing disorders occur in about 1 in 7 people at some point in their lifespan. With a population of over 90 million and special history, communication and swallowing disorders can be expected to affect about 13 million people in Vietnam. Aiming to contribute to the development of speech therapy in Vietnam, for the last 9 months, Avril Ivy, a speech therapist from Australia, has come and worked at the Training and Development Center for Special Education, Hanoi National University of Education. Hello everyone, and you're watching Sharing Vietnam on VTC10 Net Việt. Right now, let's jump to the talk with Avril Ivy in order to understand more about speech therapy and also its development in Vietnam. Thank you so much, Avril, for joining Sharing Vietnam today. First of all, may you share with us why did you decide to become a volunteer in Vietnam?
I came on holiday a few years ago and really enjoyed my time in Hanoi especially, but in all of Vietnam. I was also kind of at a stage in my career where I wanted a new challenge. I'd been working for about 6 years, and so I felt that I had something to bring to a country that was still developing the profession. Yeah, I've really enjoyed my time so far.
Why and how did you become a speech therapist back in your homeland, Australia?
So I applied for speech therapy when I was still at school, so I was very young, I was 17, but really I didn't know that much about it before I got into it. Luckily I enjoyed it. So in Australia you study it for 4 years at university, so I did that and enjoyed that. It involved university study like we know it, but also going into clinics and working with clients during university time. And from there I worked in the country, had lots of different experiences with lots of different types of clients, so I really enjoyed that. But my favourite has always been working with young children with disabilities and their families.
Speech therapy is something new in Vietnam, so in order to help our audience understand better about this idea, may you share with us what does speech therapy do and how does it help people in need?
Started about 40 years ago with people just doing what they can, even though they had no specific training, and then it turned into degrees. From there, it has ended up being about 6,000 speech therapists in Australia. So compared to Vietnam, which only has about 33, that's quite a big difference. It's still developing there as well. But in Australia, speech therapists are employed in schools and in special needs schools as well as mainstream schools, hospitals, and also kindergartens and private clinics as well as government-run clinics. And usually it's quite often for free for clients. Speech therapists cover 2 main areas, communication and also swallowing difficulties. It might be children with pronunciation difficulties, children who are late to talk, have problem putting sentences together, stuttering, or children who have disabilities and haven't developed language at all. And also adults who have had neurological issues, so maybe a stroke or a brain injury, and then have speech and language or swallowing difficulties from that. So there is a huge range of what speech therapists help people with, but their general goal is to help improve independence and quality of life for our clients.
What have you done in the last 9 months in Vietnam to help develop the skills for special need teachers?
In that time, I've been doing workshops for the teachers. So we've been looking at how to assess children and looking at how to treat speech and language difficulties in children. So yeah, that's included workshops, but also like one-on-one kind of mentoring sessions, watching their sessions with children and helping them create goals, and also looking at different strategies to help them target speech and language goals in their sessions. At the moment, we're learning about how to help through play, so helping children learn through play, and that's been lots of fun to teach.
Being aware of the need of speech therapists in Vietnam, since 2008, Chinh Foundation, a non-profit, non-governmental organization of Australia, has started to work with Phạm Ngọc Thạch University of Medicine, Ho Chi Minh City, to train the very first professional speech therapists for Vietnam. Apart from organizing training courses, Chinh Foundation also helps bring experienced Australian speech therapists like Avril Ivy to Vietnam to share knowledge and do training for the Vietnamese. Tuyết Mai, one of the teachers at Training and Development Center for Special Education, has had the chance to work directly with Avril Ivy for the last nearly 1 year. Avril's support helps Tuyết Mai sharpen the skills as well as set a more specific goal for her career.
Ngay từ hồi học đại học cũng như là sau khi ra trường một thời gian ấy, thì mình cũng đã có những cái đề tài, những cái nghiên cứu nhỏ của bản thân về vấn đề ngôn ngữ và giao tiếp, các kỹ năng xã hội của trẻ, đặc biệt là trẻ tự kỷ. Nhưng mà suốt cái quãng thời gian đó thì nó chỉ giống như kiểu là những cái nhỏ lẻ thôi, và mình chưa có một cái định hướng rõ ràng gì về cái việc phát triển sự nghiệp của mình sau này như thế nào. Và đến khoảng 1 năm trước thì bạn Avril bạn bắt đầu tình nguyện làm tình nguyện viên ở trung tâm mình. Thì đó giống như kiểu một chính thức, một cái mốc mà mình đặt chân theo cái lĩnh vực này. Bạn ấy mang đến cho trung tâm mình với những cái kiến thức, những cái kỹ năng mà trước đây thì mình nghĩ là mình chưa hệ thống được. Và mình cũng sẽ hình dung được là trong thời gian tiếp theo mình cần phải làm cái gì. Cho đến bây giờ, mặc dù nó chưa phải là thực sự là chuyên sâu chuyên nghiệp, nhưng mà mình nghĩ là mình đã thứ nhất là ban đầu biết là với một đứa trẻ thì mình cần đánh giá ban đầu của nó như thế nào, nhận định được những cái khó khăn ban đầu của trẻ như thế nào. Sau đó thì mình lựa chọn những cái mục tiêu phù hợp, những cái kỹ thuật, những cái biện pháp và lập một cái chương trình cho trẻ, trị liệu về ngôn ngữ, giao tiếp cho trẻ một cách phù hợp.
Tuyết Mai is among many young and passionate Vietnamese who desire to become a professional speech therapist. Despite being a new profession, speech therapy is a useful and potential field in Vietnam. In your opinion, what should be done in order to help speech therapy develop better?
So as I was saying, there's only 33 speech therapists in Vietnam at the moment, so it would be great to see more being trained. At the moment, you can only study speech therapy in Ho Chi Minh City, so it would be great to see courses start up in Hanoi and in the centre. It would also be great to see them being employed in early intervention areas, so centres like this centre, but also in mainstream kindergartens and in special needs schools. It's really important to know that treating speech and language difficulties early, before the age of 7, is the most important time. Once they get a little bit older, it becomes a little bit harder to treat, and those problems they tend to go into adulthoods. Also, as I was talking about play before, Vietnam has a really great, really dedicated teachers and some really great understanding of early intervention, but learning through play is a really new idea in Vietnam. So even though when people go to speech therapists, what we do might look like we're just playing, it's actually a really important way for children to learn, learning about problem solving, learning language, learning social skills. I think another thing that needs to develop in Vietnam is people's understanding of how important play is for children.
What is your plans for the next 9 months working at the Training and Development Center for Special Education in order to help teachers at this center and also patients to get better treatment and also assistance?
So a few of the targets I have by the time I leave will be developing an assessment of language skills in Vietnamese and looking at what the normal development of the Vietnamese language looks like for children who speak Vietnamese. At the moment we're not quite sure, and we've been using English examples and then don't always match up. So looking at being able to create something specific to Vietnam so that children are able to be identified as having speech and language difficulties earlier. Another thing I'll be looking at is developing alternate communication options for children who aren't able to communicate their basic needs, but also aren't able to communicate their ideas and opinions. Looking at things like picture cards, communication books, and even iPad apps that speak for the children. And we'll also be supervising speech therapy students from the Phạm Ngọc Thạch University speech therapy course starting next week. So that's another thing that'll be really exciting to work on, is training the next round of speech therapists for Vietnam.
Earlier in the talk, you said that you want to change and you wanted something more challenging when you decided to become a volunteer in Vietnam. After 9 months, do you think that everything has been challenging enough?
Well, it's definitely a different kind of challenge to the one that I had been doing. So even if it's not very, very difficult, it's still something new and different. So that's great. I've had a really great lot of colleagues here. They're so lovely and welcoming and have done a great job of listening to what I say and trying to help me understand how things work in Vietnam as well. So from that perspective, I've had it really easy, and people have been really easy to work with and great fun to work with. But obviously there's the challenges of it being in another language. So learning Vietnamese has certainly been a challenge. That is very difficult. And challenges
so
around...
Did you start with one Vietnamese?
Yes. It's that hard. Tiếng Việt is that hard. So that's been a challenge. I think, being so far away from my family is a bit of a challenge as well. But in general, it's been, I think, a lot easier than I thought it would be. And that's because my colleagues have been so lovely.
And if people want to know more about speech therapy, then what can they do?
You can go to the Chin Foundation website, TRINH Foundation, and they are an Australian organisation that are strongly linked to Vietnam. They support local speech therapists with the training and professional development that they need. They're also helping me here as well to be able to have links with those speech therapists and help me develop different resources for Vietnam. There is a list of speech therapists, and there's also quite a lot of information about what speech therapists do and where you can contact one if you need to.
Once again, thank you so much for sharing with us today. Thank you for the assistance that you have had for the speech therapist in Vietnam. And I also hope that the experience that you've got in Vietnam will help you somehow in your future career.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's all we have for Sharing Vietnam today. Thank you so much for watching us. And if you have any questions or recommendation, please email to sharingvietnam@netvietTV.net. Thank you for watching and see you next time.